shall buy you, meaning no man shall set you free. Now, with you getting sold into slavery by ships, what nationality were carried hundreds of miles across the ocean by ships? And that's the so-called blacks, the so-called Latinos, and the so-called Native Americans, because you had the Portuguese slave trade, you had the Spanish slave trade, and you had the transatlantic slave trade. Those nationality people, as a vast majority, they went into ships, but guess what? It goes deeper than that. It also happened to so-called Black Irish, okay? So anywhere these curses pertain to, that's a sign that you are Israelite. That's the spiritual evidence we're bringing out.
Right.
He's also bringing out archaeological evidence, the Lost Lunar Stones that you can find in New Mexico. Catch a plane and go see that. That's this prophecy being fulfilled because those Native American Indians were brought here by slave ships during the Assyrian Empire. You can read about the Assyrian Empire in the scriptures. That's when my people, so-called Native American people, that's when we got over it. That's why you have the Ten Commandments on the Lost Lunar Stones that's over 2,000 years old. Come on, man.
And I got some
more
evidence. There's some more evidence. It says in Cuba, Hispaniola, and other islands where he discovered, Columbus found natives who have their Kekus in their own language and traditions. To what race did these aborigines of America belong? It says several writers have asserted and have displayed much learning and attempted to prove that the Aborigines were descendant of the Jews. Okay, did you hear that? It says, and this result was reached already in the 16th century by the Spanish clergyman Roldan, and his arguments was derived from an unpublished manuscript which he had discovered. And also I got another one too, because they dealt with the whole blood covenant. When you go to Leviticus, the 17th chapter, when you go into the law of blood, the Native Americans, they kept that. They sacrificed hound and hill, just like the ancient Israelites of the scriptures did. Now, when you go back into the law, Leviticus was written over some 4,000 years ago. But when you go into the Native Americans and the fact that they were keeping those customs, that was what, literally 500, 600, 700 years ago. Okay, so why would those people in this present time keeping the same customs that the ancient Israelites did? Because your scholars even admitted, that, wait a minute, these are the descendants of the Israelites. And why was black singing Kumbaya? Swing low, sweet chariot. Saw a band of angels flying from River Jordan east, coming to carry me home. Why was slaves in slavery, black Americans, singing about the Jordan River Israel if they never seen it before?
Because the Jews ran the slave ships.
Well, they were speaking ancient Hebrew, and also...
Wait, good point. He said Jews were in the slave ships, but wouldn't that make sense that they was the ones on the slave ships? Makes sense.
I'm saying the Semitic Jews.
Semitic, there's no such thing as Semitic.
Come on, man.
Those Semitic Jews are the ones that... It's no... Semitic is a made-up term. It's called Shem. It's called Shem. Shemitic.
They literally made the word
Shem is a made-up word because they wanted to have what they call ADL, to come against people that speak against the bullshit. It's called Shem. You have Ham, Shem, and Japheth.
You won't see the name.
You will never see the word Sem in the Bible. It's called Shemitic.
Did you know what they called the Semitic people before they called them Semitic?
What's up?
You know what they called the Semitic people before they were Semitic?
What's up?
Afro-Asiatic.
Yep.
That's right.
Afro-Asiatic. It's related to the region of the tectonic plates. Israel's on the corner of the African tectonic plate.
It's in the continent of Asia.
And the Asian tectonic plate. We lived in that region. So before they used the word Semitic, they were called Afro-Asiatic.
I mean, through the Middle East and Northern Africa has been inhabited by many other races.
Dog, blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans are the Israelites. No matter how you want to cut it, I know you want to come up here, but at the end of the day, you're going to slavery, okay? You're an Edomite according to the Bible, and that's your point. Catholicism, you pedophiles, man, you have no dealings up here.
Pedophiles.
Whatever your religion. I'm not saying you in particular, not you in particular, but your religion is pointless. It's a lot of wickedness. Okay? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It holds no weight.
Do you realize that the majority of the Greek nobility were pedophiles? The majority of the Roman rulers were pedophiles. So for you to get up here and say that there's no basis of it is ridiculous. Because the people you worship were Romans. The emperor, the Caesars, they all were into fucking little boys, man. This is cultural, man. This is cascaded down to America, to Europe, everybody.
I don't doubt and I don't deny that there are bad people.
But that's your culture.
Did you get any of the information that we're bringing out to you? Hey, are you going to take the time when you leave here to look up somebody like James Adair?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah? Because I mean, you research this stuff. I mean, I get you probably shell shocked by the information we bringing out
I've heard
because
this stuff before.
we bring out facts back to back to back. But
No, I'm not.
you know what I'm saying? You gotta. But okay, let's just say you ask us what do we have to prove that blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans are Israelites? Well, what do you have to disprove that?
Right. And that information is.
Hold on, let him answer.
I can't pull anything up right
But the historical evidence stops during the Balfour Declaration because that's when the
And
so-called
again-
JEW people were placed there. They didn't belong to that land. You see, you have to understand that those people, the Hook-No people, those were converts. They took a little bit of our religion and combined it with their own
let's get
religion,
into it.
which has a lot of different gods.
You ever heard of the Khazarian Empire?
now.
Exactly. So that's where the modern so-called JEW comes from.
And their own history tells you that.
In Eastern Europe, right? Because they were descendants of. They lived in what was called the Caucasus Mountains, right? In Georgia, Russia. That's where the Khazarian Empire was centered, right? But before they came there, their origins go back to further south in what's known as the Middle East, right? But they were driven up north, but for whatever reason. So when at a point in time of their kingdom, until Kagan Bullen, all of their rulers were pagan, right? From the point of when Kagan Bullen came into the throne, that's when they were converted to Judaism. And they started to accept certain tenets out of the Torah, right? Because who were the major contending forces at that time during the Khazarian Empire? Who were the two major forces that controlled the political scene? The Byzantine Empire, who else?
You had the Byzantine, Western Rome, I imagine.
The Byzantine Empire and it was a Muslim kingdom. The Ottomans, right? You had the Byzantines who were Christian, and you have the Ottomans who were Muslim. So the Khazarians were presented with information from both kingdoms and asked to convert to one. Well, they took from the Torah and started calling themselves Jews. Do you see what I mean?
I got proof on that.
And also, even before the Khazarian Empire, during the Hasmonean dynasty, which would have been around the time when the Greeks were in power over the world, they had forced conversions of people that were non-Israelites that started to accept the tenets of the scriptures. But does that make them real Jews? No. No, it doesn't.
No.
It doesn't.
I don't recognize it as such.
Okay, so I'm going to read this to you then, Paul. This is, matter of fact, you can look this up. This says this is the Jewish Encyclopedia. It says Khazars, a non-Semitic Asiatic monologal tribe nation who immigrated into Eastern Europe about the 1st century. It says who were converted as an entire nation to Judaism. Converted. It says they were converted. So what does convert means?
That's where most modern Jews come from. Eastern Europe.
And it says about the 1st century who were converted as an entire nation to Judaism in the 7th century by the expanding of the Russian nation, which absorbed the entire Khazar population. And it says, and who accounted for the percentage of Eastern Europe of the great number of Yiddish-speaking Jews in Russia. Poland, Lithuania, Galatia, Bessarabia, Romania, okay? Khazars in a national group of Turkic-type independent and sovereign in Eastern Europe between the 7th and the 10th century CE during the time of this leading Khazar professed Judaism. So they converted over. There was never the original.
That's the cold hard facts, my man.
And also,
and this is your scholar saying this. You can't.
Yeah, and also,
this
man,
is history.
You got Jewish rabbis coming out, not just us. Jewish rabbis. Yehuda Ben Amir, look him up. Jewish rabbi. He is backing up the statements that Kanye West has said, and the video that Kyrie Irving has shared. You got prominent figures sharing all this information. We're not just pulling shit out of our ass.
Right, we ain't playing dress up, man.
You got Jewish rabbis now saying it, and they know. They're out here telling, say, hey, look, we're just converts to a piece of their religion. We're not the real people. They're saying this shit. How do you explain that?
So you would be a biblical Edomite. You would be, look up Idumea or Edom in the Bible.
Biblical Edomite.
Okay, so that's where you go back. Your forefathers goes back to Esau. Okay?
Esau, right
Jacob's twin brother. that's who you go back to. That's your nationality, which the Most High had nothing good to say about, by the way.
This is
Just
Yeah,
the
the
fact
Most
you
High
come-
hates your people.
Yeah,
man.
and the fact you come up here and display that type of proud behavior. Now you calm down, you were humble. We got a little rowdy at first, but the reality of it is this isn't for you, and we're just bringing out the fact. It's not because we want to beat up on you and make you feel less than. It's just the fact you wasn't chosen, because the Lord deals with chosen. Everything the Lord has a
That's
favor on
favors.
everything. He has a chosen lily. He has a chosen land. He has a chosen people. The Lord deals with particulars, man. That's all throughout the Bible.
I got another question. You say it has to do with lineage, like blood, right? In what way are Africans and natives, Hispanics related, even remotely? And like here you got all the different tribes. Right? Puerto Ricans are white.
Puerto Ricans are not
white.
So are Argentinians.
You got
Right.
some white-looking people among
Not
them.
the natives of that
I
land.
mean, go their ancestry.
I mean, you get that in the
Well, let me
scriptures where
say,
it says
well, let me
Ephraim
say
is
this
taken
because
as
I will be
servant.
looking at so-called
Yeah.
Puerto Rican. Do I look white to you?